Good evening and welcome to this week's episode of Atlantic Tales, when we'll visit the Michael Cusack Heritage Centre, established in 2006 in the heart of the Burren in County Clare. Michael Cusack is celebrated as the founding father of the Gaelic Athletic Association. Located in his home village of Carron in the heart of the Burren in County Clare, the Michael Cusack Heritage Centre is a treasure trove of living history. Since the centre opened in 2006, visitors from all over Ireland and around the world have come here to enjoy an evocative, unique cultural and sporting experience in an enchanting and unspoiled landscape. Cusack was born here during the worst year of the Great Irish Famine. The family home in Carron still stands today. Agnes O'Loughlin is principal tour guide at the Michael Cusack Heritage Centre. She knows that only for the local community, the Cusack cottage could have been lost forever.
It could indeed, but for the people of Carron, way back in the 60s, it was in quite bad repair. It was lived in up to the early 60s, I believe, but then towards the end of the 60s, it was in quite bad repair, and the local people decided to build a wall around it to prevent cattle from getting in and causing more damage. And then, of course, in 84, the centenary of the GAA was coming up. So the local people, together with local business people, etc., decided to get together and renovate the cottage. So it was renovated for the centenary of the GAA and in 1984, and it's in very good condition now. And of course it was 2006 then that, even though it was open to the public and people could come in and view the cottage between 84 and 2006, but it was 2006 that the interpreter centre that you see here was actually built and opened in November 2006. So we're 20 years open to the public, giving information about Michael and really keeping his memory going here at the Michael Cusack Heritage Centre, which is
celebrations.
Great. Celebrations this year, yes indeed.
Let's stroll down if we can, Agnes, because looking from the hill, it looked quite large. Were there other cottages, other homesteads in the area, do we know?
Well, there would have been other homesteads in the area. The area was quite densely populated before the famine, but of course the famine hit the area very badly. Many people died, many emigrated, and so we were very lucky that Michael's cottage survived. Now, Michael's cottage was actually owned by Colonel McNamara, who was the landlord in the area at the time. It was a herdsman's cottage, and it was owned by Colonel McNamara, who owned quite a bit of land in the Burren and going right down to Doolin and all that area. And Michael's dad was one of his herdsmen. So he was very lucky to actually get this cottage and to live in this cottage, because of course it meant that he didn't have to pay rent, which was a huge advantage back then. So the cottage itself is a very sturdy stone-built cottage, which a lot of the cottages of the day were in the Burren, because of course we've plenty of stone here in the Burren, and a lot of the cottages were very sturdily built. Other areas there would have been mud built and they would have disappeared. But as you travel through the Burren, you will see, the remains of herdsmen's cottages still throughout the area. So we're very lucky to have Michael's homestead in such good condition.
Do we know whether there was a particular reason it was built here? It's sheltered, it's down in a valley. Would that have been part of it?
That probably would have been part of it, yes. It's down in a valley called Paulafuca, the valley here. That was probably one of the reasons. People did tend to build in sheltered areas back then. Probably the main road out there may have been there, may not have been there, we don't know, going way back. I suppose there were, maybe other cottages around, other houses around, so it wouldn't have been isolated back then. There would have been a lot of other people living around the area. Michael was born in 1847 in the middle of the Great Famine, so they would have lived here prior to the famine, probably maybe the late 30s, early 40s. We don't have records of who lived here before them, but Michael's dad had a holding in Ra outside Currafin, and he lost that because he couldn't pay his rent, sadly. And he was very lucky to get the position here as herdsman for Colonel McNamara here in this area. So they would have come here probably maybe the late 30s, early 40s, 1839, 40, that kind of era. They would, because Michael was born in 47, and he would have had a sister before him, and you don't know, back then a lot of children died at childbirth, so there would have been lot of infant mortality. So there could have been other children that before Michael, we don't know. But we do know that his sister Mary was born before him here in this cottage as well.
Let's step inside, Agnes, if we can.
We will indeed.
Dear Margaret, you are very welcome to my home. This is where I grew up. I was born here in the west of Ireland on the 20th of September 1847. It was the year of An Gorta Mór, the Great Famine, and this region was hit very hard indeed.
They're fine thick walls.
They are, and just mind your head
Limestone,
going
of
in,
course.
because the door is quite low. They would have been the original walls, very, very thick, strong walls. And of course, limestone it retains the heat. So, they had quite a big open fire. So the room would have warmed up from the fire, and it would retain the heat. And as well in the summertime, with sunshine, the stone retains the heat. So it would have been moderately comfortable to live in, heat-wise. Probably drafts would have got in round the doors, etc. But it would have been moderately comfortable to live in. Now, it wouldn't have been as grand as it is today. The flag floor was put down when the cottage was renovated, the Liscannor stone floor. Also, the wooden ceiling that you see here was added back then. In Michael's time, it would just have been the thatch that you would have seen, and that would probably have been rushes rather than reed, the thatch up there at that time. The children, there may have been a little, at the end here, there may have been a little loft or mezzanine, we don't know, but we think that they may have been, because there are traces.
A stone ledge there.
Yeah, there are traces of a ledge along there, so it's possible that there was, and they would have slept there. So this was the main room where everything happened, basically. Eating, sleeping, cooking, everything happened here. The open fire, of course, with the crane for the kettle for boiling the water, the griddle for baking the bread, and the pot for cooking the meals, the potatoes, etc., whatever was being cooked. And they were the three main pieces of cooking equipment, really, that Michael's mother would have used. They wouldn't have been probably able to afford, we'll say, candles or lighting of any description. Maybe they would. Probably very hard to get back in we're looking at famine time now, so possibly not. So it would have been during the night times, especially in the winter, they would sit by the fire. It would have been the light of the fire that would have given a bit of light around the room. And people, the neighbours, of course, would have come in and sat around talking and chatting and bringing news from other areas and discussing what was happening, etc. So that was, of course, the court that we talk about now, which was so important back then because there weren't any newspapers or there wasn't any information.
There may have been music, song,
there could have been music and song and dance, yes, indeed. And people were able to play. There were a lot of people that were able to play. You're the home of music here in Carron and Kilfenora with the famous Kilfenora Gaelic band, etc. That goes back to the 1800s as well. So you would have had lots of getting together and lots of people meeting, which was brilliant in a way. I think we've changed an awful lot in our lifestyles now. People don't get together in houses any longer like they did back then, which is sad in a way, you know.
What do we know then of a young Michael Cusack growing up here in Carron and going to school?
Well, Michael grew up here, born in the middle of the famine, the worst year of the famine, 1847, Black 47. He didn't go to school until he was about 11, 12. The school in Carron opened in about 1858, so he went to school up there then. Now, he may have had some education before that from hedge school teachers that would have come through the area. There are some records of hedge school teachers being in the area, so he probably had some education from them before he attended school in Carron. Of course, he had to learn to speak English when he went to Carron School because they spoke only Gaelic here at home. The teacher in Carron really was the man that helped Michael. Mr. Flynn was his name, and he realised very early on that Michael was a very, very intelligent young man. And he made him a classroom helper or monitor when he was about 14. And I suppose this probably whetted Michael's appetite, and he wanted to become a teacher himself. But how was this going to happen? You know, it was, his parents certainly wouldn't have been able to pay for his education, and it was pretty dire times. There wasn't any money, obviously. So the teacher helped him. The teacher and the local school inspector got him a position down in Enniscorthy, in a school down there called a district model school. Now, these model schools were run by the Quakers, who were very good to the Irish people, of course, during the famine. And the schools were training schools for student teachers. They were non-denominational and they were charitable institutions. So Michael didn't have to pay any fees to attend one of these schools. Now, he did have to get permission from the church to go there because he was Catholic, and these schools were non-denominational. But he got that permission. Rules and regulations, Michael Cusack always felt, should be put to one side when something needed to be done. So he got his permission to go to Enniscorthy and spent a year there as a student teacher. And we think then that he may have gotten a bursary of some type, which brought him along to their central school in Dublin. And he spent another year there in the central school in Dublin. That school, actually, the Central Model School, is where the Department of Education buildings are today. So certainly the connection is there. And these schools were probably the beginning of our educational system as we know it today. So Michael spent a year in Dublin and he came out with top class honours. Now, his first teaching post for a few months was just down the road in Corofin, in Richmond House in Corofin. Then in September of that year, he got a permanent position in Lough Cuthra in Gort, County Galway. And he spent about 4 years teaching in Lough Cuthra. Now, Lough Cuthra School had just opened at that time, so he was the first principal of Lough Cuthra School, which was no mean feat when you think he was about 11 when he began school here in Carron, and he was about 17, 18 when he went to school down in Enniscorthy, and now at the age of 19, 20, he was principal of Lough Cuthra National School.
He soaked up all that information and that knowledge very quickly.
Very quickly. Michael was a highly, highly intelligent young man. And he spent 4 years teaching in Lough Cuthra. The school was originally a church, Lough Cuthra School. The local landlord up there, Lord Goch, decided that he would change it, turn it into a school for the local children. And Michael got the position as principal of that school. After about 4 years in Lough Cuthra, he took a position in Newry in County Down, in St. Coleman's in Newry. Now, we don't know how or why he moved so far away, because that was quite a distance back in the day, why he moved to Newry, but he did. He taught English, maths and science. And it looked as if he changed from primary to secondary school teaching at that time, which was probably maybe easier done then than it is now. And he was renowned for his teaching prowess. So renowned, actually, that other schools headhunted him. He was headhunted by many schools. So he moved around quite a bit. He taught, for instance, in Kilkenny College, Blackrock College, Clongowes Wood, and he lectured in a later time in his life. He lectured for a time in Trinity as well. And he taught in all of these schools. But the one thing, in all of the schools Michael taught in, he always brought to the table his passion and his love for sports and athletics, because Michael loved all sports. Now, hurling and football would have been his first love. He played it down here as a child outside the cottage here, but he also played rugby with Blackrock College, and he was into weight throwing. He was also into rowing. He was All-Ireland weight throwing champion 2 years running, actually. So he was an all-round sportsman. And he wanted the children he taught to have sport and athletics, combine all types of sport in the school, and to combine this with the academic. That was Michael's idea, to combine both together, because Michael felt that sport and education combined together were the success of a nation. And how right he was in his ideas. Michael Cusack was, no doubt, he was a visionary. I suppose all of the schools that he taught in, the ideas, what he did, I suppose that helped when he was deciding, on forming the Gaelic Athletic Association as well. He realised that the interest had been lost in our national games after the famine. Many people had died, many had emigrated, and he decided something has to be done about this. We can't allow a huge part of our history to actually disappear.
He wanted to form an association. How did it all start then? He had the idea, but where did he take that idea from there?
Eventually married a lady he had met up in Newry in County Down, Margaret Imelda Woods. They settled in Dublin, and he realised a lifetime dream. He set up his own school there called the Cusack Academy, and this was a type of, I suppose, grind school where people went to study for entrance exams to the Army, Navy, Civil Service, etc. And he set up the first hurling club there, the Dublin Hurling Club or the Metropolitan Club, and they used to practice in the Phoenix Park. And he set up some more clubs throughout Dublin, but the interest wasn't there. People were more interested in survival back then. After the famine, people were still, they were trying to survive. Times were tough. So he wasn't deterred. He turned his attention to the country, and he had lots of connections in different parts of the country. Michael was very good at networking, even though the word hadn't been invented back then, but he was very good at networking. And he would write to different people that he knew throughout the country, and he would write pieces in local newspapers. He would go to athletic meetings and make speeches. And it took a lot of hard work and a lot of grit and determination, but it finally culminated in that famous meeting down in Hayes' Hotel in Thurles on the 1st of November 1884, when the first, shall we call it for want of a better word, the first committee of the Gaelic Athletic Association was formed.
I hereby adjourn the meeting so as to give the 4 elected officers time to draft rules for the new association.
Many myths surround that first meeting, but what we know for sure is that this was the start of what would become the most successful organisation the country would ever have, the GAA.
Michael was the leading light in forming that committee. That was the beginning of something huge. The fire was lit, as they say, the prairie fire, and it went on throughout the country. More counties got involved. People got involved in playing the games throughout the country, and it developed from there, and it developed into what we see today, the Gaelic Athletic Association, the largest amateur sporting organisation in the world. And it's not just the sport, it's of course the sport, the hurling, the football, etc. is so important in every village and town in the country. But it's also our diaspora that emigrate and go to other countries throughout the world, America, Australia, etc., and bring the games with them and set up clubs out there. And, it's the networking, and it's the help that young people get from the GAA clubs to get settled when they move to a new country. And of course you have the music, you've got Ceoltas as well. So these are the things, these are all the strands together that Michael Cusack actually developed. And he had the vision to see that this could happen. And that's where all his determination and his work went into forming the GAA. That was the seed Michael sowed when he formed that meeting down in Hayes' Hotel in November 1884.
Coming up, having heard how the Cusack cottage was saved from ruin and renovated with the support of the local community in Carron, we'll find out how the establishment of the Michael Cusack Heritage Centre came about. Welcome back to Atlantic Tales. Today we're visiting the heart of the Burren, home to the Michael Cusack Heritage Centre, a not-for-profit, community-based social enterprise. Retelling the Michael Cusack story as founding father of the GAA and his pioneering vision is central to what goes on here, with an engaging, authentic and contemporary visitor experience that includes the old Cusack homestead, which was saved from ruin. Staff also strive to develop the centre as a hub for GAA-related community programmes and as a centre of excellence for well-being. Tim Madden is manager of the Michael Cusack Heritage Centre.
The centre came about following the renovation of the cottage back in the 1970s in the build into 1984, the centenary of the GAA. Once that project had completed, the next part was to commemorate the centenary of Michael's death. Michael died in Dublin. 1906 and is buried in Glasnevin Cemetery, and again I would recommend anybody who's near Glasnevin to go and visit Michael's grave and visit Glasnevin. It's just a wonderful experience. So the people that were here at the time, and some of them are still here thankfully with us on our board, they decided to build a interpretive centre, which is the centre we're currently in. Wonderful building, an award-winning building built 20 years ago, all literally fundraised and built in 2005 in the lead into 2006. The first sod, I believe, was turned here in April and the building was actually opened in November. So 20 years on, I suppose, the centre then, in more recent years, there was a upstairs, we're downstairs in the building at present. We put in, during the COVID period, thanks to Clare County Council, we put in a digital hub. And we trialled it for about a year and it was a bit hit and miss, to be honest. And after the year, the hub relocated. But thankfully, they left the broadband and the digital capability in the room upstairs, which now allows us to target small conferences, up to 40, 50 people. We can do it obviously in person and online, and we've done that. And because of the unique location we're in here and the centre of the Burren, the award-winning geopark that we're in, it allows us to target groups like the National Biodiversity Data Centre, who've been here with us for the last 2 years, part of their annual conference, and other ecotourism heritage type groups. So that's a niche we've created out of that, and that's upstairs.
The most important thing, of course, is keeping the legacy of Michael Cusack alive. What else goes on here? It's not just telling the story of Michael Cusack, because you have scope to do so much more here.
Yeah, lots of different things have been happening here in the last few years. We have been delivering a very innovative and transformative well-being programme for teenagers in schools across County Clare. These would be DESH 1 schools across the county. And they come here for a half-day workshop, literally at this time of the year, February through April. And the workshop is it's a morning workshop, starts around 10 o'clock, runs till 1 o'clock. 3 hours, come from their class with their teachers, come here. We have Clare GAA coaching team who are really excellent delivering the workshop on our behalf. And the workshop itself looks at 2 aspects of well-being. The first aspect is called Who Am I? What a deep question to be asking anybody of any age, but particularly for a 14-year-old. So they're at that stage where they're trying to, I suppose, identify their own identity, self-identity and their own value system. And that's the first part of the workshop. Bit heavy going, but it's a very, very good workshop and very thought-provoking for the student. Second part of the workshop is a bit like our hurley. It's called Bend, Don't Break. So how do you develop resilience and build resilience throughout your lifetime? This is a life skills program. And we give them some tools to take away and we get feedback. And that type of workshop then continues in the class throughout the year. So really great program. It's our 6th year running the program. And we couldn't have done it without the support of Limerick and Clare Education and Training Board.
Deciding to do a training program like that, in the back of your minds, did you think this is what Michael Cusack was doing back when he was teaching? He loved working with young people.
Yes, because Michael's motto was very much about the physical development and the mental development of the person, all the way back to in the building to 1884. So it wasn't just all about the Gaelic games as we know it, the Gaelic football and the camogie and the hurling, etc., etc. It was around the mental supports and psychological supports. So that's what we have been doing, and we see applications for this program way beyond schools. We see it as a community program, and that's kind of what we're building towards as well.
Let's go for a walk, Tim, upstairs and Matt to see the upper floor. 20 years this year, big birthday for yourselves.
20 years in November, Pat, yes.
Celebrations planned?
Yes, there will be. We're early in the days of it. It'll be interesting to certainly reflect and invite some of the people who were maybe here 20 years ago when, the building was opened.
It will be great to get people back, of course. The story will always be told. So what exactly happens upstairs? You have the little shuppa here as well, but it's all about telling the story of Michael Cusack, the Burren. You have fantastic displays here as well. What happens up here, so?
So what happens, literally the upstairs part links into our car park, as you'll see outside. So when the visitors come in, through into the reception area, they're welcomed. And we normally start by showing them where they are. And as we see here from the large map outside our exhibition centre, we are in the centre, right in the centre of the award-winning Burren and Cliffs of Moher UNESCO Global Geopark. We get visitors, for example, who may just come here randomly. It may not be, or they might be coming in from different parts of North America or Australia or wherever. So they can be a bit, where are we? Like literally kind of, in this wonderful landscape that is the Burren.
Only for the signs, no one would find you. It's not visible from any road or any laneway around here that I can see. And that's probably part of the magic.
Yes, it is definitely a hidden gem. It's a lot of word of mouth. So for example, next month we will be formally meeting with 35 tour operators. And we will be, again, this is our 3rd year doing that, we will be pitching the attraction and what we have to offer here for the visitor to them. And we're building that. That's a slow build. Like we have, I think, 3 or 4 of the 35 tour operators on board this year. If we got 2 or 3 more this year, next year, that'd be perfect, because this is a long-term plan. And I suppose the development of the centre here as we go forward is to build towards 2034, which is the 150th anniversary of the GAA, and also build towards 2047. Seems like a long way off, and that is the bicentenary of the Irish famine. So the famine cottage that you've visited, Pat, earlier, will become more an Irish famine centre, and we'll be building towards that as well.
Mary McAleese's involvement with the centre, that's fantastic.
We're delighted to have Dr. Mary McAleese on board as our new honorary patron since last May. And Dr. McAleese brings so much to us. Also recently hosted a meeting here a couple of months ago with all the key stakeholders in the project to help us plan towards our future. What does that look like at present? It looks like, I suppose the next step for us now is to commission a detailed tourism study on the centre, which will look at what exactly we should be doing, I suppose, and how can we attract new visitors here. So whether that, for example, might include children to come here. Do we put in a wall ball? Do we put in a hurling experience? Do we continue our wellbeing programs? Do we develop heritage programs with schools? Do we develop walkway? Because on our doorstep, the National Parks and Wildlife Service have just literally joined behind us. They've purchased 400 acres. So there's a whole new walking product in development. So I suppose Dr. McAleese brings that great support and has the contacts as well. The next step we're moving towards, Pat, is to develop a charitable status. And we're hoping to, this year, start attracting philanthropy and benefactors to support the project financially. But to do that, we have to have the charitable status so we can give the tax break to the potential philanthropists and benefactors. So Mary brings so much, really. And the day she was here last May, the beautiful day of the weather, about 150 visitors, Mary brings such wonderful energy and people skills to us and uplifts everybody.
And she promised that she will be a regular visitor as well.
She did say to us that I'm not just an honorary patron on paper, how can I help? So she has thankfully started that process, as I mentioned a few months ago, and has an ongoing interest and is available to help in any way she can.
And how did Dr. Mary McAleese get involved here?
Well, there's a wonderful story, Pat. There's a bust here of Michael Cusack right behind us, a wooden bust that was presented by a great Clare man, Mick McCarthy, originally from Partine, now living in Wicklow. And Mick presented that bust as we celebrated in 2022 the 175th birthday of Michael. So that was that weekend in September 2022. And this time, 3 years ago, 2023, Mick came back with a bronze version of the same bust to us. And Mick happened to mention he's very friendly with Dr. Mary McAleese. And we happened to ask Mick, would he have a word with Mary and would she consider coming down to unveil the bronze bust? So Mary came with Martin, her husband, on the 24th of June 2023, first time here, and went down to the Cusack cottage, and no more than lots of people who come here experienced something quite spiritual as you literally go into the cottage. Something transforms you as you go in. So a couple of months later, Mary is then on the Late Late Show, the first show with Patrick Keelty, that night in September 23, speaking about her experience of being in the Cusack cottage and the legacy that Michael has left, such a bountiful legacy for us all. Then we go into 2024 and Mary is in Croke Park. You'll know that she's the chair of this group to integrate the three groups together, Camogie Gaelic Football and the GAA into one. Again is referencing the Cusack Centre, the Cusack cottage. Then I said to myself, I wonder could I ask Mick to ask Mary, would she consider being our honorary patron? And we'd love to have her on board. And yes, Mary was asked and I responded to say she'd be delighted to be our honorary patron. We chose, if possible, the 1st of May last year being the day of La Éile Bealtaine and new beginnings and new possibilities as the day, and Mary was available and she came here on the day, and it's really uplifted the whole place.
I went down during the summer to Karen and down in the Burren, you know, where Michael Cusack was from and born in 1847 in Black 47. And I was there more or less by accident just to unveil a bust given to it by a man who used to work here with me many years ago, Mick McCarthy, one of the funniest men I ever worked with in RTE. But to stand outside his pathetically small little house in this beautiful area, realising this was a child born in Black 47, you wouldn't have given tuppence for him. And he founded the GAA.
How are you funded? How do you manage to keep going?
Well, for the last 20 years, PUBL, Department of Rural Development, have been key supporters of us, and without their support, we wouldn't be here. Then we have other supporters, thanks to Clare GAA. Clare have been great. Ongoing support, annual support, Munster GAA, Munster Council, ongoing support. Clare County Council, through either the council themselves or the councillors, give us some support through their GMA. The Limerick Clare ETB, the Wellbeing Programme. And then I suppose it's our pricing around our visitors coming in. They support us. You'll see the merchandising behind that sells. We do sell teas and coffees, that helps. But it's challenging in these times. We need more, and that's the point of the tourism study and the point of the charitable status as we build towards more income streams.
Coming up, we'll hear how maintaining the 2-acre site around the Michael Cusack Heritage Centre in as natural a state as possible is so important to the team here, and how the controversial puka sculpture found not only a new home, but its rightful home in Carron.
I've often been to Clare, often been to Ballyvaughan, but I had not then, until I came here the first time, I hadn't been to Carron, and something about the place gripped me. I realised then this is not just the home of Michael Cusack, though it is that. This is not just the place that honours him and reminds us of the role he has played in Irish life at home and abroad. It's a place of pilgrimage for all of us. Every single one of us who claim that heritage, who are proud of it. This place is so special.
Welcome back to Atlantic Tales. In the heart of the Burren in North Clare stands a 200-year-old cottage which was saved from ruin. It's where the father of the Gaelic Athletic Association was born in Black 47 at the height of the Great Famine in Ireland. Michael Cusack is remembered here not just in the family homestead, which the public can visit, but also in the Michael Cusack Heritage Centre, which will celebrate its 20th birthday later this year. Given the centre's location in the Burren and Cliffs of Moher UNESCO Global Geopark, the team is very conscious of the sensitivities of the area. This was taken into account when the centre was originally constructed, and the natural beauty and biodiversity of the area are still cared for with passion. Aisling Tully Edge is Assistant Manager at the Michael Cusack Heritage Centre.
2 years ago, we actually devised a biodiversity management plan for the area. So, as a lot of your listeners might know, we are in the heart of the famous Burren of North Clare, which has over 70% of Ireland's flora is represented in this area, and the place is famous for that. So what we wanted to do with our own site here, which is about 2.5 acres of a site, is manage it to increase the biodiversity in the area. So I suppose one of the biggest changes somebody might see from how it was managed a couple of years ago is that if you come here during the summer, all the areas that would have been managed as lawns are now managed for wildflower diversity, so they're managed as wildflower meadows.
So you want the area around the cottage and the centre to be as natural as it was?
Absolutely, absolutely. And another thing that we are looking that we would love to do is possibly present the area around the cottage as possibly a little bit more as it might have been in Michael's time. When he was a young man growing up here, we know that they had an extensive orchard, talking to locals, and they would have had their haggart. I don't know if we'll go that far to have our own vegetable garden, but just to try and make the place, to present it more in that way, as opposed to very manicured lawns.
It's probably easier to allow it flourish naturally than to maintain it and cut lawns.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, actually our gardener's delighted. Martin, well, he does a lot more than garden. Yeah, no, it is a change. I mean, also we don't use pesticides in the area at all. So that is a little bit of a challenge, trying to keep the balance between the place not becoming completely overrun and looking very nice and presentable in certain areas, you know, with weeds and everything coming up. So that actually involves more labour, shall we say, than if we were going and spraying, but it's something that's important to us. But as far as cutting lawns and things, we have a rotation for lawn cutting, so it's not like we're out every week trying to maintain a manicured lawn, so that's easier. But then there's also parts that, like down the back past where the puka is, we need to cut down every winter and remove all of the vegetation off it, as if it was mimicking as if it was being grazed, because we don't have any animals to do that for us. So it's not just cutting it back, it's cutting it and removing everything, and that's quite a big area, so that does entail a lot of work. And the reason that you're removing all the cuttings is because actually all the wildflowers thrive in more impoverished soils. Actually, that's what they love, so you're taking the nutrients off of the area. You don't want to leave the grass there to make it richer, because then the grass just gets denser.
And as you mentioned, 70% of the country's flora is represented within the Burren. And have you seen some of those fairly rare flowers reappearing in this area?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, even just the very first year we stopped cutting the lawns, we had orchids coming up down the back just outside the door of what we call a Hayes Hotel. There was orchids on what was previously just lawn. So there's an awful lot of the wildflowers, if you look, are actually sort of embedded in the grass already, but they just never got a chance to come up. And then obviously with the diversity of flowers and the flora, you get all the insects, and you get all the butterflies coming in, so it increases all of that. So it starts with the flora, with the plants, and then you get all the other creatures that are represented in the Burren coming in. And also one thing, we've the last 2 years actually, here in Ireland we have a biodiversity data centre who are down in Wexford, and they have an annual meeting for all their data collectors, and we have hosted that here for the last 2 years, because the place is such a wonderful representation of that rich biodiversity, as well as the history and culture associated with the place.
You're keeping the area in a way that adds to the story of Michael Cusack, because it would be very close to what it was like 200 years ago.
Very much so. That was really what we want, so that once you step onto the site, everything that you see and you experience, it all ties into that story and that legacy. One of the reasons that the Burren itself is so famous for its wildflowers is the whole practice, as most people would know, of the winterage, of grazing the animals up here in the winter. So they do that job of taking off all of that grass that grows during the summer, taking it all down, leaving the soil with a very, very short swathe of grass ready for the next year's wildflowers to come up. And as we know, Michael's father was a herdsman. He was part of that tradition, of that practice of winterage. So that would have been something that was very much part of their lifestyle. The animals being brought up here for the winter, that would have been their busy time tending all of those flocks and herds. Yeah, it's all part of the story.
Sheila Davern Keane is Education Officer and a tour guide at the Michael Cusack Heritage Centre. She has a strong interest and knowledge of local history, archaeology and folklore. She is director of the centre's Samhain Puka Storytelling Festival, which has been an annual event since the controversial puka sculpture found its new home here, where Sheila and her colleagues believe it rightfully belongs.
Anybody who knows their folklore would know that a puka never frequented a town or a village or a built-up area. He was always encountered out in the rural areas, the lonely spots or the out-of-the-way places. Having said that, he's found himself a delightful area here at the Michael Cusack Heritage Centre homestead, the home of the founding father of the GAA. So from one great man to a great folkloric character, we unveiled on Puka the beautiful Aidan Hart sculpture here on the grounds on the 25th of June 2022. A puka, I suppose I should tell you first of all, for anybody who may not be familiar with the concept, a puka is one of, I suppose, Ireland's more famous folkloric characters. He's a particularly interesting character because he is a shape-shifting, mischievous spirit. He is neither good nor bad, really, but he has the ability to bestow misfortune on people who mistreat him, or to bestow good on those who are respectful to him. And there's a lot of folklore in North Clare to do with the puka, and many of us, lucky enough to have grandparents to tell those stories, grew up with them. Sometimes encountered as a large black dog or a huge hare, sometimes, and in up around this area in particular, as a large goat that stood upright on two legs, and more commonly as a large black stallion or horse with wiry mane and fiery eyes, who had a particular, I suppose, penchant for targeting inebriated gentlemen coming home late at night from the local hostelry and offering them a lift. or a ride home. I should tell you that whatever guise the puka was encountered in, he always had the power of human speech. Now, I don't know what they were having to drink back then, but I'm sure if a horse trotted up beside you and said, you know, you're all right for a lift home, probably run the opposite direction. But believe it or not, apparently some fellas said, yeah, and jumped on his back. Those who didn't and refused the lift, well, the puka would fall back a little bit, and then he'd run up behind them, put his head in under their legs and flick them onto his back. And that's when the fun really began for the puka. He would take them on the wildest ride of their lives. Through bushes and briars, he would jump lakes, he would take them to the edge of cliffs, and he would frighten the bejakers out of them. Finally, he would drop them home just about dawn, where no doubt the gentleman is now looking forward to seeing his wife standing behind the door with the frying pan and welcoming her and kissing her feet, because he's been terrified all night. Now, there are also stories that say there were some people, some cute lads, that were either courageous or smart, but they befriended the puka. And anyone who was respectful and befriended the puka could be given, I suppose, a sense of great knowledge or enlightenment or some such gift. So, you know, around here, we're very respectful of our puka, and we're absolutely mad about him. And everybody who comes to visit him, well, he leaves an impact, that's for sure.
We know, Sheila, that the puka wasn't destined to be in Ennistymon. Some would say it was destined to be here. How did you manage to secure the puka?
As you know, the sculptor Aidan Hart created this particular puka, which is half horse, half man, who incidentally, this figure has now seemed to have worked its way into folklore. People have said they've encountered it. But anyway, that's our puka. He was meant for Ennistymon, but some of the locals in Ennistymon didn't like the idea of the puka there. And Clare County Council opened up an expression of interest competition to towns and villages around Clare. And as you can see, Pat, we are neither a town nor a village. But the area we're standing in now, its old townland name is Paulafuca. So we decided we'd throw our hat in the ring. And lo and behold, through fierce competition, I might add, we unveiled the puka down there, as I said, in 2022. And we absolutely adore him. We have him up there in a par now with the great Michael Cusack, to be honest with you.
And you're telling the story of Cusack here, obviously, but also telling the story of the puka.
Absolutely. I mean, in this one site, there are so many aspects of our heritage, of our Irish heritage and our local heritage that we talk about on a tour. Obviously, it's the Michael Cusack homestead. It's the home of the great founding father of the GAA. But the cottage down there itself, it's a famine era cottage. The area we're in we're right in the middle of the Burren. So you have all of that natural history around you. You have ancient history within a stone's throw with forts and dolmens and, you know, everything you can imagine around here. And then there's a huge folkloric aspect to the place. Because again, North Clare, we loved our stories, and we still do. And when we acquired the puka sculpture, we decided that we would create a festival. And since 2022, we have had our Samhain Puka Storytelling Festival running. Started very, very humbly. We're growing it year on year. 25 last year was, I suppose, our best year. It was an expanded festival whereby we brought in an academic element. We had a 2-day academic symposium. It kicked off originally with storytelling, which of course is a huge focus, and we had the wonderful Eddie Lenihan in on the Saturday. On the Sunday, we always keep that Sunday as a community and family fun day, and we have lots of things going on that day. The entire place is decorated. We all dress up. We have fancy dress competitions, trick-or-treating. Michael's cottage becomes the witch's cottage. We have face painting, you name it. And storytelling upstairs. We usually bring a guest author or a new storyteller in to introduce them to people and to the crowds and give them a bit of experience as well. Then we had our 2-day symposium, which was fantastic. We had some new research talked about. And of course, the theme was all Samhain and puka related. And indeed, we were delighted to have Aidan Hart himself come down and talk to us about the whole concept and creation of the puka sculpture. And then we finished off on the 1st of November with Puka Day. And that was, again, a kind of family and fun-oriented day. We had a wonderful musical performance and workshop from Eugene Lamb on the uilleann pipes. We had henna tattooing, we had a kids' craft workshop, we had storytelling and so much more. So we're now in the process of prepping this year's festival.
The Michael Cusack Heritage Centre celebrates the founder of the GAA with an annual Michael Cusack Day. Centre manager Tim Madden believes, however, that Cusack's contribution to Irish society, culture and the Irish language should be celebrated with a national holiday.
Since 2020, we've celebrated Michael's birthday, born the 20th of September, so it's the closest Sunday to his birthday. Our plan is to keep on developing it, and we would love it to become a national holiday. We feel that Michael was so instrumental in the development of Gaelic games, the Irish language, heritage. If there can be a holiday for St. Bridget on the 1st of February and St. Patrick, we believe that Michael is up there as a national icon, and this area and this cottage is a national asset of intangible cultural heritage. So we're building towards that. All takes time, but we're getting there.